You're listening to the Love Unplugged podcast, episode 95. Do you struggle with acne? I still do, and I'm 37. Who would have thought that you'd have to deal with acne as an adult, but a lot of us struggle with it. Acne is no fun, but we can heal from it. Want to know how? Well, you're in luck because today we're taking a deep dive into acne and the steps that we can take to heal our skin from within. So without further ado, let's jump on in. Hey there, I'm your host, Jessica Fergon, and I am passionate about doing the inner work needed to reach your goals. Let me be your guide as we navigate all the fears and insecurities that surface when it's time to step outside of your comfort zone. Along with my knowledgeable guests and industry experts, I'm here to teach you how to reawaken your life purpose and passion and create the steps to turn your intentions into action. Ultimately, my goal is to empower you to rise above those blocks holding you back and start living a life that you are worthy and deserving of. So come on, it's time to slow down, find a comfy spot with your favorite organic tea, and get inspired. Thank you for tuning in to the Love Unplugged podcast. Hello, loves. Today I am joined by Cicely Killam, registered holistic nutritionist and founder of the health and wellness blog, The Pure Life, with its mission being to inspire others to feel beautiful through delicious plant-forward recipes and self-love practices, which I am all about. And I'm just so excited to dive into today's subject. So welcome, Cicely. I'm so honored to have you as my guest, and I'm just so excited to learn all about your story and advice. But before we start, for those that don't know you yet, I would love for you to share a little bit more about you.
Hi, Jessica. Thank you so much for having me today. So as you mentioned, I'm a registered holistic nutritionist from Vancouver, Canada, and I work for my business full-time, The Pure Life, where I help women help clear their acne. I also help them work on inner beauty and self-love. And I love what I do, and I'm just so excited to chat more about skin health today and also a bit about how I grew my business.
Amazing. Now, I'm just so excited because I'm dealing with some acne right now, and I don't know if it has to do with, my gut issues or something that I should be eating or not eating, or if it's the mask that I'm wearing all the time now.
Yeah, maskne is a real problem.
Yeah. So I want to go back in time a little, and I want to talk about your own personal health journey and what that was like. Did you struggle with acne growing up, and that's why you're so interested in what your business is based on now?
Yeah, so I started struggling with acne when I was about 12, 13 years old, the very typical age that we begin to see the hormonal acne show up.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure many people are nodding their heads right now, agreeing with that. So what happened is traditionally I was put on the birth control pill as kind of like a Band-Aid fix. And that's kind of where my health journey or my skin journey began. So since I was put on the pill at such a young age, I began to see health problems arise from that. So before I actually went on the pill, I tried everything from like Proactive, which like peeled my skin off. It was so awful, like burned my face. And I tried, all the different kinds of products and whatever I'd read in like People magazine. I was so young, I didn't know what I was doing. And the pill definitely helped clear up my acne for a while. But what I didn't know was going on is that I was getting all these other symptoms because of the pill, unfortunately, that would later be linked to my acne in the future. So over the years, I had definitely a roller coaster ride with my acne, depending on what kind of hormonal birth control I was on. So I would swap out different doses, different methods, and I struggled with everything from cystic acne to digestive related acne, which we're going to get into later. But I think the two biggest struggles for me with acne were, the first one was when I was put on a really strong hormonal birth control. And I struggled with really deep cystic acne. And that was the most painful acne experience I've ever had. And I will never forget how just emotional, how tough it is emotionally as well. And then the second struggle that I dealt with my acne was when I took my IUD out. So my hormones were obviously definitely different with the IUD. And as soon as I took it out, they were trying to rebalance themselves. And even after I've had to have the holistic nutrition training, I really struggled with, and still struggle with, like, it's only been 3 years that I've been off of the IUD, rebalancing my hormones. And sometimes it takes women up to like 5 years to get their body back to homeostasis. So man, I've been through it all with skin health, and that's why I fell into it, because I'm just so passionate about it from a personal perspective.
Now, there's just so much I want to touch on that. And, I love that, as bad as it did start at the young age. And I think that at that young age, I think there needs to be so much more education around skin health, because I feel like so many, including myself, the first thing you think of is, I'm just going to go on the birth control and it's going to clear up my acne. But that brings up like so many other issues, and sometimes it makes it even worse. So I think, what you're doing right now and bringing so much more awareness to skin health and clearing up acne in the proper way is just so important, especially for the younger girls, so that they're making the right decisions. When I grew up, my mom didn't know very much about skin health. Like she got me to try all these different things. I tried Proactive. I tried Clinique, because that was like the mainstream stuff, all the magazines were telling us what products to try. My mom even got me, because she was very much like health focused, like vitamins and supplements, eating organic, like all those types of things. But she got me like this cream that was for my ovaries that you would like rub on my ovaries. And I'm like just doing it because I will try anything at that point. Like when you're going through it at that young age, it's so hard on you emotionally, because you don't want to go out when you have like a flare up. I used to like cancel plans to stay home because I had pimples or zits or whatever. And I would do anything. I would try anything that anybody gave me just to get past whatever flare up I was experiencing. But the worst was this damn hormonal cream that I would put on my ovaries. And I still, to this day, I'm like, seriously?
Like, yeah, I've never heard of that. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah. And honestly, when we're that young, like you said, we're willing to try anything. And that almost just makes it worse, because we're putting so much stress on our body. We're applying loads of makeup, which is just clogging our pores. And we just feel so lost. And I honestly remember being that age, feeling like I have no idea what to do. Like there's just no answer here. So when I was put on the pill, it was like this miraculous, it was like a miracle, right? I was so happy. But unfortunately, there's just such a lack of education around how our bodies work, how our hormones work, and how hormonal birth control can affect acne. And yeah, I'm so excited to be here and to be in this space and to be working as a holistic nutritionist to help people uncover that and learn more about their bodies and how it works. Because when we're empowered, we can make smart decisions and, maybe not buy the ovary cream, but instead something a bit more, science backed that actually will work. Right. And that's natural.
Yeah, definitely. Now, what prompted you to go to school for holistic nutrition? Was it because you had acne issues, or was it because of more than just that?
Yeah. So since I dealt with such a roller coaster of health issues, like I didn't just struggle with acne, I also struggle with digestive issues and anxiety and, everything. And all of that, I actually saw a gastrologist for about a year when I was 18. And we did everything from like testing to random pills to I even got surgery, like where I got a colonoscopy. It was so awful at 18 to have that done. But at the end of the year of working with him, he basically sent me on my way and said, okay, goodbye, you're on your own, good luck. And he never really figured out what was wrong with me. And looking back, I know exactly what was wrong with me. But after being sent on my way, I was really inspired to take my health into my own hands. So after a few years of digging around and, healing myself from the inside out, we started talking to friends and family like, man, if only I could do this for a career. Like I was writing friends like PDFs of meal plans just for fun. I didn't even know that was a job. I knew there was like personal trainers and I'd heard of a naturopath, but I didn't really know what they did. So I met a girl when I was working at a restaurant, and she was telling me how she was studying holistic nutrition, and she kind of explained to me what you could do with that for work. And I was blown away. I remember running home and like Googling holistic nutritionist and just being like crying tears of joy to have found my passion. And I will never forget that moment. And that's initially what inspired me to go to school for holistic nutrition. And I was also already blogging on the Pure Life before that. So it kind of all came together, and it was such a beautiful experience for me to find that something that I just was so passionate about, but I didn't know existed as a career. So yeah, that's why I went to school for holistic nutrition.
That's amazing. Mm-hmm. Now back to that doctor that sent you on your way, even though nothing was discovered and you still had issues. How did you feel? Like, I kind of want to understand how you navigated the feelings that must have come to surface, feeling so discouraged, maybe upset, angry towards this person that just kind of like, yeah, okay, go on. Like, that's it. This is what you have to deal with type thing. I can't help you. And then be able to come out of that the way that you did.
Yeah, totally. And thank you for asking that. I wish someone had asked me at the end of that year, like, are you okay? Because there's been this huge shift over the past couple of years surrounded like around intuitive eating and just listening to your body. And before that, we were really used to people saying like, you're fine, it's okay, just like take an Advil or, whatever it is. And so that's how I grew up. So I was furious. When I left that doctor's office on my last visit, I was so angry. I felt completely alone. I felt no support. Honestly, like my friends and family, they didn't know any better, but they just said, you're fine, you're overreacting, or again, take an Advil or whatever it was. And that's what initially inspired me to make that move to go into holistic nutrition, because I knew there was something out there. I knew I didn't have to stay like this for the rest of my life, because I looked around and people weren't struggling like I was, or at least I didn't know they were. So I think that anger and resentment towards the doctor really inspired me to make change. And unfortunately, that's where we have to get sometimes to make change, is to get to that place of like feeling so low or feeling so lost. Ideally, I want to support people before they get there, because that's an awful place to be. But that's what I see, honestly, with most of my clients, is that feeling of just wanting that support and just looking for answers. It's such a real feeling, and it can feel really lonely.
I totally agree. Now let's talk acne. What are the root causes of acne?
There are so many. And as a holistic nutritionist, one of my favorite things about my practice is that we get to look at everything. So we don't just look at your diet, but we look at your sleep patterns and if you were breastfed or not as a child. Like we literally look at your whole health history. But I often see with my clients, there are two major root causes or imbalances when it comes to acne. And they definitely like work interchangeably, and they work hand in hand, where if we see one, we usually see the other. So those two are digestive imbalances, and the second is hormonal imbalances. So digestive imbalances, it can really look like any kind of digestive issues that you are experiencing. So one thing I see often is that we're not eliminating properly. So if you're having less than one bowel movement a day, which is technically considered constipation, you're not eliminating toxins properly. So to put it simply, what's happening in the body is when we aren't eliminating, the toxins are just recirculating in our body. And what happens is they're trying to get out. And the first place they want to get out is the skin. And that's why we see acne when we're not eliminating properly. But we also see it on the other spectrum. So let's say we're seeing like loose bowel movements. If you're struggling, with like diarrhea, you're not absorbing your minerals or your nutrients that you need to have a balanced body to fight acne. So any kind of digestive issues are really going to stem back to skin problems and just not detoxing properly. So whenever I work with clients, the first thing we work on is working on the gut lining and the microbiome, because we can't really get anywhere. Like, let's say you're taking all these supplements and you're drinking all these smoothies, but you're not digesting or absorbing any of the nutrients, then it's pointless, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think digestion is always like my most fun thing to work on. And it's definitely the first thing I would recommend to someone if they're struggling with any kind of acne or skin issues. And then hormonal imbalances are huge. And I'm sure you can agree with this one. I think, especially as women, we feel a lot more hormonal change in our body, going through menstruation and pregnancy. And this honestly is such a drive for acne. So, the reason why we're experiencing hormonal imbalance is, I think one of the biggest reasons is because we're so exposed to so many synthetic hormones these days. So things like pesticide exposure or chemicals from plastic or the cleaning sprays that are being sprayed literally everywhere right now because of COVID. These kind of things can really wreak havoc on our hormones. And our body is just not set up or equipped to handle this amount of stress on the body. So speaking of stress is a huge trigger for both digestive and hormonal imbalances. And it's amazing what stress can do to your skin. Like, even when I'm following the perfect diet, when my skin is like doing so well, I'm hydrating, I'm sleeping well, and I'm still stressed, I still get breakouts when I'm stressed. So if you're prone to acne, stress can be a huge, huge trigger as well. But I would always make sure to link it back to digestion and hormones. Those are kind of the two main things that you want to look at when you're struggling with skin issues.
Gotcha. Okay. So I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole because I think going into the gut, it would turn into a whole different discussion, to be honest.
Whole other podcast.
Exactly. Whole other episode. So we're going to stick to acne.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of want to know, do different types of acne tell you what the issue is? So like if you're experiencing acne like on your forehead or versus, around your chin or your mouth or on your cheeks, like, or the different types of acne, whether it's like cystic or just like the little pimples or things like that, like, do they have different health issue stories?
Yes, 100%. And this is a really reassuring thing that we can start with. Like, we can look at our skin and think, okay, so my acne is here. I know why that's happening. So that's why I created my latest ebook is called the Acne Protocol. And in the beginning of the protocol, I help people figure out where their acne is occurring and then what that's linked to. So linking it back to the digestion and the hormones, what we usually see with digestion is bumps on our forehead. That's usually the digestive issues. And this is heavily linked to traditional Chinese medicine, but I am such a firm believer in it, and I see it with literally all of my clients. So digestion, is like forehead area. And then hormones are usually around your chin. And that's like the most common one that we see, right? Like those deep cysts around your chin area. And basically, yes, different kinds of acne can definitely tell us a different story. So the deep cystic acne, like the painful ones that you pick at and you're poking at, they just become super inflamed, super red, and they never really go away.
Mm-hmm.
That is almost always linked to a hormonal imbalance. And I often see that with girls who are coming off the birth control pill when their, estrogen and testosterone levels are super elevated. And we need to kind of, again, work on the elimination of getting rid of those hormones through digestive support. And then when you see like little, like this is often mistaken for just like a rash, but it actually is technically acne, like little white bumps that aren't really acne, that can usually be linked to the kind of skincare products that you're using. So once you know why acne is linked to specific conditions or imbalances, that's when it can feel really empowering and you can start to make that plan for yourself. But I know how confusing it can feel in the beginning. It's just a really great place to start, is looking at your acne and trying to figure out what it's linked to. So yeah, I think that was a really good question. I think that's something everyone should definitely take a look at.
That's interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so cool.
All right. So I understand why we have acne growing up. Our hormones are going all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
We probably don't have the best skincare routines. Like what we're eating is probably not the best either, because as a child, obviously you're wanting to eat like a lot of junk food.
Mm-hmm.
um,
Totally.
but we all have this hope that we're like in our teens, we're going through acne and we're like, it'll clear up when I'm an adult. When I hit like 20, I'm going to have clear skin for the rest of my life. This is just like for right now. But then you get into your 20s, your 30s, your 40s, and the acne is still there.
Mm-hmm.
So why do we still have acne?
Yeah. And it's so funny. I remember my mom telling me when I was like 15 and I was struggling with acne, she goes, "Oh, don't worry. When you're an adult, you won't get acne." And I remember that hope. I remember thinking, oh yeah. So like when I turn 20, 21, I'll have beautiful clear skin like I see in all the magazine covers
Mm-hmm.
and it'll be great. So it's only a couple years of my life. But like you said, we're still struggling with acne at any age. And I think the first thing we want to do is normalize that acne and imperfect skin can and it probably will happen at any age. And I think we really need to get out of this mindset that, we're going to have perfect skin once we're an adult, because there really is no such thing as perfect skin, because we're getting thrown so much at us every single day that we're not equipped for it. We're not prepared for it. And that really goes back to why we're experiencing acne into adulthood. So yes, of course, when we're younger, when we're teenagers, we're experiencing that huge hormone surge. And like you said, we're eating junk food. I remember eating junk food every day. I'm like, no wonder I had acne. But as we get older, we're getting thrown things like stress, like I was saying, is a huge trigger. Also, the pesticide exposure. So, what happens when we're exposed to chemicals and pesticides and just toxins that our body doesn't like is it builds up over time. So, by the time we hit like 25, 30, 40, we're seeing all these symptoms arise that just what weren't happening when we were younger, because they've built up in our body and we're not effectively eliminating them. So there are so many different reasons. Like I have some clients who are struggling with things like PCOS in their 40s. And then I also have clients who are, 20, 21, and they're experiencing the post-birth control acne. And then I also have clients who are just experiencing pregnancy acne because of hormone change. So honestly, our hormones are changing and we're going up and down for the rest of our lives. And that's what we don't realize, is that we have to be equipped. We have to show up for ourselves. We have to keep nourishing our body, because unfortunately, we live in a world now where this stuff happens, right? And
Mm.
as depressing as that sounds, we need to schedule in that time for self-care and for taking care of ourselves, or else our bodies are just not going to handle what gets thrown at us.
100%.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let's break down healing our acne and target some areas that we can kind of focus on for this episode.
Yeah.
And if anybody wants more information, there's definitely a lot more that you probably provide in that ebook and in your one-on-ones that you do with clients as well. So definitely reach out if you're needing more assistance. But what I kind of thought was 3 different areas that we can focus on today. So nutrition, skincare and products, and then supplements, vitamins, and herbs. So I'd love to hear from you, on nutrition. The first topic is, what should we be eating or avoid eating to help, heal our guts, or, help focus on skin health?
This is my favorite part. I love focusing on nutrition because it's the easiest way to nourish your body from the inside out. And it's fun, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
making food is fun and you get to enjoy it. So yeah, there are definitely some foods that I would highly recommend taking a look at. As you mentioned, I also have so many recipes on my Instagram and my website, but getting specific, like if you actually have acne, you want to focus on specific foods for the breakouts, because they're really going to help fight your acne. So I'd say my top food that is so underrated that I think is a really great one to look at is a food group called cruciferous vegetables. And these are especially really good for your liver and eliminating excess hormones, because they contain a compound called indole 3 carbinol that helps eliminate excess estrogen from the body. So including foods like kale, Brussels sprouts, broccoli, and cauliflower are part of the cruciferous vegetable family, and they're really wonderful if you're experiencing any kind of hormonal acne. And then another one that I love to recommend to people, especially if you're struggling with like dry skin or like that kind of skin that goes from like oily to dry, and you can't really figure out what's going on, are healthy fats. So you really want to up your healthy fat intake, things like having half of an avocado every day, a handful of walnuts, increasing your wild fish intake. I think that we're exposing ourselves to so many inflammatory fats, so like refined oils and things like that, that we need to counterbalance that with healthy fats. So foods high in omega-3 fatty acids, like the ones I mentioned, or like chia seeds, hemp seeds are really wonderful. I think those are really, really important when focusing on a skin diet.
Amazing.
And yeah. And then foods to avoid, I definitely, like I mentioned before, would make sure that you're not consuming too many inflammatory oils. So these are oils like refined canola oil, vegetable oils. You want to make sure that you're cooking with things like extra virgin olive oil, avocado oil, coconut oil. Those are really wonderful. But honestly, I really love focusing on creating a healthy relationship with food when it comes to acne, because often what can happen is we create this food fear around these food groups. Like I'm sure you've heard, stay away from dairy, stay away from gluten, sugar, soy, like the list is endless, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that stress and that fear of that food can often be more harmful to the body than actually eating the food itself. So it's all about finding, I know we hear this all the time, but finding that balance when it comes to nutrition is so vital, and letting go of any kind of guilt you have around food groups, and really just focusing on like the whole food, unprocessed as much as you can, is like your safest bet.
Yeah, such great advice. I love that.
It's kind of like a breath of fresh air, hey, when you hear
Yeah.
like, I can just eat intuitively. It'll be good for my skin.
I love that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so against like diets and restrictions and whatnot. I think that
Totally.
just puts you in a whole different mindset that you shouldn't have. And I
Mm-hmm.
think definitely eating for what you need and what feels
Yeah.
good, and kind of being aware of like how your body feels after you eat certain things, and,
Mm-hmm.
not taking into consideration like what works for them may not always work for you. So just kind of being very mindful about your diet.
Totally. And that's one of the biggest issues of like sharing my entire life on Instagram, is people think to have clear skin, they need to eat exactly like me. And I'm like, no, definitely not. Like, please don't do that, because everyone is so different. Like, I see some clients thrive off of a fully plant-based diet, where others need to incorporate animal proteins back into their diet to see their skin clear up. And it's fascinating to watch how everybody is actually so different and needs different foods. And when we restrict ourselves in a negative way, it can become so tough in the long run.
Love that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the second one, skincare practices and products.
Mm-hmm.
So, what are your tips and suggestions on what we can do to take better care of our skin when it comes to those things?
Okay, so let me start off by first saying, if there was like this magic skincare potion that cleared all acne, trust me, like I would 100% be buying it, like giving it to all my friends and family. But unfortunately, it's just like nutrition, where everybody's skin is going to react so differently to different products. So in the beginning, it is a bit of trial and error and finding what works for you. But there are definitely a few guidelines that I like to follow that are like huge no-nos or like definitely wins in my book. So I think the biggest thing to remember is that simple is always better when it comes to skincare. And that's because if we're putting way too many products on our face, our body just like, it just can't handle it. It's just like having like 100 different supplements in your supplement cabinet. Like your body just cannot handle that. So I think simple is really, really great. Having like a really natural face cleanser, maybe like a moisturizer or a face oil. And then if you want one other fun thing, like a simple toner or something like that, that's wonderful. But I really like to keep it simple. One of my favorite all-time face oils that I have to share, because it's such a neutral oil that a lot of people benefit from, is rosehip oil. Have you ever used that before?
I'm scared of trying face
I
oils.
get it. I so get it.
Really? Like, I don't know. I just feel like my skin kind of goes between like dry and oily. And I'm like, if I'm going to add more oily, I'm going to break out even more. Like, I don't know. I'm just kind of so scared about trying it.
Totally. And I've been there. So before I was introduced to face oil, I was chatting with my friend who owns a skincare company here in Vancouver. And I was struggling with the cystic acne after removing my IUD. And my skin was the same, like dry, oily, dry, oily. I'm like, I can't figure it out. So she gave me this face oil. She said, I know you're going to be freaked out to try this, but try it. Come back to me in like 2 weeks and let me know how you like it. It was the only thing that actually like saved my skin. And I never understood how oil could actually support oily skin. But what happens with the skin is when we use products that are so damaging to our skin barrier, our skin produces excess oil. And then it just kind of sits there and clogs our pores. And then it'll dry up again when we use those harsh products. So that's why we're experiencing that yo-yo effect. But when we use supernatural, like specific ingredients like a rosehip oil, that's going to help nourish your skin. It's not going to damage the skin barrier, and it's really going to help bring balance back to your oil, your sebum production. So if you're nervous to try it, I totally get it. I've been there, but have a look around, do some research. There are so many wonderful oils out there. You just have to find one that works for you.
Gotcha. Okay. I might try it. I might try it.
Or even honestly, like there are some really lovely moisturizers out there that have specifically designed oils that are not as intense in them.
Mhm.
So just look out for that, because that could be a good option as you transition into an oil. Because I know it can feel so overwhelming when you first put an oil on your face.
Awesome. All right. The next one is supplements, vitamins, and herbs. So, I mean, there's so many supplements out there and vitamins, and like people say you should be doing a multivitamin, and some people say, you should get more specific what your body actually needs, or you should be putting all these herbs or like
Mhm.
adding these things to your smoothies and like all that stuff. So I kind of want to know what your thoughts are on what we should actually be including in our diet that is going to help with skin health.
Yes. So one of the first things I do with clients is I do the supplement purge, where we get rid of basically all our supplements and superfoods, because when we don't know why we're taking something, often it's not really helping the body. Like herbs and supplements are so specific and they're there for a specific reason that if you're not taking the right ones, sure, it can help, but it might just be overwhelming for your liver and it might just be really tough on your wallet. So again, simple is always better, just like the skincare and the nutrition. You want to keep it small. Definitely one thing you want to stay away from is marketing gimmicks. So I love it when I see skin supplements and then I look on the back and the first ingredients are like literally exactly what you don't want to take for your skin. It happens all the time. I'm absolutely in shock. And you definitely want to be really careful about supplement brands because they're not regulated. So they could be adding fillers and additives in their supplements. And if it's not regulated or tested by like a third party, then there could be anything in your supplement, really, because there's no regulation. So you want to make sure that you're purchasing from brands that are well researched and backed by holistic practitioners. And definitely keep it simple. So if you can work with a holistic practitioner and you with supplements, I highly recommend it. If not, do as much research as you can. There are a few things that I totally swear by and love and that have helped me a lot. And while I don't want to give specific recommendations, like that's how I helped heal my acne like a long time ago before I was a nutritionist. So I think it's really important that I share some things to inspire people and maybe they can give it a try and see if it works for them. So The first one, you may be hearing this a lot because it's so popular lately, like women are just eating it up, is magnesium glycinate. Have you ever taken that before?
I've never even heard of it.
Oh, amazing. So magnesium is a mineral that we need, that we traditionally got from our soil and our food. But what's happened over years and years of not so great farming practices is that our magnesium is depleted and therefore depleted in our bodies. And we need magnesium for so many different things. So, for example, it really helps with sleep, with just like relaxing the whole body, hormones. And when we're not sleeping properly or when our hormones are out of balance, then of course we're going to see more breakouts. So, magnesium is something that I personally has changed my life and has also helped so many of my clients and my friends. But there are different kinds of magnesium, so you have to find the right one for you. I personally like the magnesium glycinate. It's like a powder. You just take it before bed. It helps you sleep so well. And it's just, I think it's something like 80% of women in North America are magnesium deficient. So you really can't go wrong with that.
Okay.
Yeah. And then in terms of, I know herbal teas are really popular. And when, they were, do you remember that like skinny tea, skin tea, those brands a couple of years ago? People were all over those skin teas. And I mean, some ingredients were great. Some, again, were just marketing gimmicks. But I know that drinking herbal tea is such an easy way to get in those herbs to help your skin. So I think one of my biggest recommendations that I think is one of the most effective teas, especially for hormonal acne, is a spearmint tea. So the spearmint actually helps when we get like hormonal related breakouts around our chin. Those are on what we call androgen receptor sites. And androgens are produced when we are under a high amount of stress. So the spearmint will actually kind of block the androgens and will prevent the breakouts from happening. So if you have your period coming up, or if you're just getting those deep cystic acne, spearmint is a great one to drink on the daily. And then another one that I think is really easy to integrate, like I'm all about whole food supplements and herbs instead of taking them in like tinctures and pills, is bee pollen. Have you ever taken bee pollen before?
I did when I was younger, but it's been a long time,
Cool.
obviously.
Yeah, it sounds like your mom was super into health. That's so
Yeah.
cool. Oh, you're so lucky. Yeah, so bee pollen is super high in B vitamins. It's from the beehive. It's like where it's next to where the honey is made, but it's just a super concentrated form of honey, I guess you could say. And it's, like I said, super high in B vitamins, which often are depleted when you take any kind of hormonal birth control. And we can really see a difference in acne when we include more B vitamin foods. And the bee pollen is kind of like a supplement. So you just take a teaspoon of it and you can sprinkle it on your yogurt, or you can just eat it on a spoon. It's kind of sweet, but also a little bit overpowering, but definitely something worth looking into.
Amazing. I'm definitely going to look into that again and maybe go buy some this weekend.
Yay, love. And you can get local bee pollen, which is even better. It actually helps with allergies as well if you experience any kind of seasonal allergies. Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Those are such great advice. I want to know, if somebody is starting their health journey, is there an order in which they should tackle things?
Oh, yes and no. I'm a bit biased because when I work with clients, it's very structured. We do like a 6-month protocol where we focus on like digestion first and then hormones, and it's kind of goes from there. But when you're on and when you don't have a practitioner to work with, it can feel very overwhelming. So I would say definitely just start. Like the first thing you can do is start educating yourself. So just reading the books, like go to your local library and get as many nutrition and holistic wellness books as you can, and just absorb as much information as you can. And you'll start to see patterns in things. That's what I picked up on a lot before I went to school, is the patterns in nutrition. Things like eating the whole foods, drinking more water, getting enough sleep. And from there, just take it one day at a time. So just really small baby steps is the best way to clear your skin. And also don't give up. Like definitely, if you're not seeing results after 2 weeks, that's because you've been probably struggling with this issue for many, many years. And our body cannot, you know, clear our skin in that short amount of time if we've been struggling with it for so long. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. Awesome. Now, we've talked about acne, which you've given so much advice on, which I really appreciate. I know a lot of people are going to benefit from that, even me. But I want to switch gears a little bit and talk about business. So I want to talk about your business and if it was always a dream of yours to start your own business.
Honestly, no. I kind of fell into it after working. I interned for a year in Berlin, and I worked under two different companies, kind of in the nutrition space. And it was really fun and really rewarding. But after that year, I realized how important it was for me to kind of run my own business and share my message with the world. And I thought the best way to do that would be by running my own business, so that I would have full control over, what got put out there, no filters, just me. And that's kind of what inspired me to start my own business.
Awesome. Now, what was your experience like creating your business? Did you have any key learnings that you learned along the way that others might benefit if they're starting their own journey right now?
Yes, it's been a bit of a roller coaster ride for me with my business, because after I graduated, I did a ton of traveling, and I would like save, and then travel. And so it wasn't until March of this year that I actually like 100% fully dropped everything and just worked on my business.
Wow.
And yeah, and it was really wonderful because COVID kind of allowed me to do that. I realized, okay, you know what? It's okay to not get a second job. And I took that leap and I did it. And it feels so good to put 100% of my time into my business. But going back, definitely there are some things that I've learned along the way. I started my blog in 2012. And I graduated from nutrition school in 2016. So I've been doing this work for so many years, and I've learned so much along the way. And I think for someone who isn't naturally very business minded,
Mm-hmm.
it can be really tough. And I see this a lot with graduates from nutrition school, or just people who have a passion but don't really know where to start. I think hiring a business coach was one of the best things I ever did for myself, as like cliche as that sounds. It really helped me just kind of get that motivation going and feel really aligned with what I was doing. And yeah, it honestly changed my business. So that was definitely one thing that I highly recommend to people, is working with some kind of mentor or a business coach. The second thing, especially if your business is online, this is so important, is being yourself. And I know, again, that sounds really cliche, but it's so easy to get sidetracked when when you're scrolling through Instagram and you're thinking like, oh, this person has like million followers, or this person landed this awesome brand partnership, or they're selling this many products. And it's really easy to get wrapped up in other people's success journeys and to not recognize your own. So I think really focusing on being yourself and kind of going back to why you started is so, so important. I see so many people get sidetracked and it does not end well. And then,
100%.
yeah, I'm sure you get that being an entrepreneur yourself. And the third thing is, I think, something that we all need to hear, and that is to just do it. The classic Nike slogan. But there's so many times in my career where I've felt really, really overwhelmed with the amount of things that I want to get accomplished. I'm sure you feel the same having your podcast. You want to bring so many people on and you just want to share so much information with the world. But I think just starting is a great place to begin. For example, let's say you want to do some video content for your brand, but you're overwhelmed because a videographer is super expensive, or you don't know how to film or edit. The best thing you can do is just play around and start. And who cares if the first one is awful? You're going to look back and laugh about it, but it's so worth it in the long run.
That is great advice. And definitely for everybody listening, Definitely take notes because these things come up even if you're just starting out or you're years in, they still come up. So you can still experience it, and you still need those reminders to forget what everybody else is doing, focus on what you're doing, your bubble, be very protective over it, of what you're letting in, be yourself, show up as yourself, and just start. And I love that you said, just do it, because I always say that too. I'm like, be like Nike and just do it. Just
Yes.
start. It doesn't need to be perfect to start. You can, like, if you have a podcast and you're wanting to launch it and you don't have a mic, use your headphones and your phone. Like,
Yes.
it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Eventually you can figure out all that other stuff, but you just need to start and everything else will fall into place. And if you focus on getting it perfect right off the get-go, you're most likely going to stop yourself from even starting in the first place.
Mm-hmm. And when you realize how simple that is, it feels like a breath of fresh air. You're like, I
Mm-hmm.
can do that. I can just start my podcast and plug in my headphones. That's easy.
Exactly. And people resonate with realness, right? Like, people want to follow real people and want to learn from them and their experiences. And, if it's inspiring for them, because if they see you doing it and you're, you know, not perfect and you're just kind of getting it done, but you're still doing it, that's going to inspire them to just get started themselves as well.
Totally. Very well said.
Mm-hmm. Now, what do you like most about being an entrepreneur, and what do you struggle with most?
I think the thing I love most, and I think all entrepreneurs will say this, is the flexible schedule. And this took me a long time to figure out, really staying on track and getting in those hours and but also on the other side, not overworking myself. But having those flexible hours are honestly a dream. So for example, we were just in the Okanagan this week. We went from like Monday to Thursday. And then I was just telling Jessica, I was just telling you that I get to work over the weekend, which is like so opposite of a 9 to 5. Working for someone else, but this allows me to do the things that I really want to do. And it keeps me sane. It keeps me happy. It allows me to take a self-care day if I need to. And you know what? Actually, now that you say it, I think my biggest struggle is probably intertwined with that is, again, like not overworking myself. So creating that structure. So it's all about, again, finding that balance, just like with diet. It's just like with your business, finding that balance of, creating that structure for yourself, but also allowing yourself to be flexible with it if you need to. And I think that's the beauty of running your own business, is you get to do that, especially if you have an online business. I think it's a bit easier. So I'm a bit biased, but I think that's been the most beautiful part of this journey for sure.
Amazing. Now let's talk about your offerings. I want to know everything that you have to offer through the Pure Life. What can somebody expect from following you, from joining your community?
Yeah, so on my Instagram, I share loads of skincare tips, inner beauty advice, just holistic nutrition videos. So definitely check out my Instagram. It's at @thepurelife_. And I also do one-on-one coaching. I just launched a new program called the Acne Solution Program. It's a 6-month-long course. You work one-on-one intensively with me to help clear your skin. And honestly, with all my clients, we work on so much more than just skin. So it's super fun 6-month journey. And if coaching is not for you, I recently also launched a ebook, and it's called the Acne Protocol. And that's kind of a do-it-yourself guide. So that one is really up to you with how long you want to commit to that. But I say at least 30 days. Super fun for 30 days, kind of like a mini challenge. It's got recipes, skincare tips, and like we talked about before, how to pinpoint and target your acne and go from there. And then don't forget to check out my website as well, because I've got so many recipes and blog posts. I do things like collagen reviews and like what I eat in a day breakdowns and lots of fun stuff. So hope you guys can check that out.
Amazing. Now, before we end the interview, I have some rapid fire questions from the community that I want to ask you.
Mm-hmm.
So, first one, what does your skincare routine look like?
Ooh, again, it's very simple. I love using a natural cleanser. Right now, I'm using one from Sukin, just that's what works for me, honestly, super basic. And then I love using a face oil, the rosehip oil that I mentioned. And I'm also a huge fan of raw honey masks. If you follow me on Instagram, you'll know I'm totally obsessed with just applying raw honey on my face. It's like an exfoliator and a mask and a hydrator all in one. It's also totally antibacterial. So that's kind of my go-to right now. Again, really simple. And I'm also totally obsessed with my natural spot treatment, and it's just tea tree oil, like 100% essential tea tree oil. Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to have to try that. I've always heard that tea tree oil is really good for acne, so.
It's great as a spot treatment for sure.
Gotcha. Okay. Now, second question, how long would you say generally, based on your experience, working with clients and whatnot, to heal the root causes and then be free of acne? How long does that process generally take?
Well, the skin regenerates, I think it's every 27 to 30 days. So definitely at least a month. But when we're looking at acne, we're often looking at so many other imbalances. So that's why my program is 6 months, so that we can really target all of those so that your acne doesn't come back. But when you're doing something like the acne protocol, like a do-it-yourself guide, definitely at least 30 days is super important.
Okay. And the last one is, what are you most proud of accomplishing as an entrepreneur?
I could be really cheesy and say helping so many women like clear their acne, because that's always really rewarding. But on a business side, I just brought on my first ever practicum student. So from the school that I graduated from, or there's 2 holistic nutrition schools in Vancouver, and one of them offers like a practicum. And so I hired my first practicum student, and she's been with me all summer. So that's been really exciting. And yeah, such a fun project to take on as a small business owner.
And did you celebrate this accomplishment?
Oh, 100%. Every Monday we meet at a cafe and we get chai latte and we have a meeting, and it's like the best self-care Monday. And then I go for a swim after at the beach. It's like, how is this my life?
That's nice. I like that.
Yeah.
Now, if anybody wants to learn more about you, where can they connect with you? Like, where do you hang out the most?
Definitely Instagram. So at @thepurelife_. Send me a DM. I'd love to hear from you guys. I love hearing about everybody's skin journey. Would just love to chat.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Cicely, for giving us incredible advice on how we can take better care of our skin and then heal the root causes that our acne is being caused from. I know so many are going to benefit from hearing your story and advice, including myself, because I currently have a breakout that I'm trying to deal with, and now I kind of have an idea where it's being caused from.
The struggle is real. I totally get that. Thanks, Jessica.
I'm Jessica, and thanks for tuning in today to Love Unplugged, the podcast. If there are any questions or topics you'd love answered on the show, head on over to www.projectloveco.com and share your request with me. If you haven't yet, go to iTunes and subscribe, rate, and review this podcast and share it with a loved one. Your feedback means the world to me, and the community we've created is what fuels our discussions here. After all, this is all for you. Join me next time for another unplugged conversation.